Welcome to Dental Unscripted. Where Mike Dinsio and Paula Quinn break down the practice ownership journey, one episode at a time. Starting up, buying, and running a successful dental practice.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Dental Unscripted. As Matthew McConaughey would say, is all right. Let's get this party started. We got another episode coming at you. Today, it's just me and Paula, and we are going to battle. This is a battle of the brains, battle brains. We thought it would be fun to talk about what KPIs are most important to dental practices. And if you guys know anything about how Michael and Paula coach, I'm the more financial marketing guy. Paula's all business, all operations and clinical. She is all business, but she's all clinical, all operations. And so we have our things that we look at when we're coaching our clients. And we thought we would have a little fun today and just totally go unscripted. But before we get into it, little housekeeping. If you're watching this on Dental Startup Unscripted or Dental Acquisition Unscripted, get over to the new channel. It's called Dental Unscripted. It's one channel, and we're going to talk about all things startup, acquisition, and practice success, practice consulting topics. So thanks again for following and being a part of the program. And make sure that you actually write a review if you like our program. Subscribe, pass it on to a friend. But it's great talking to you all when you guys call me, and you already know the program, and we want to make sure that we don't lose you. So get over to the new channel. So Paula, hi, how you doing today?
I'm great. Great. Ready.
Are you ready to battle today?
I'm fired up right now. I don't even know what to expect, but we'll go with it.
We'll do it. We're just doing it. This is totally unscripted. So, let's start it by just kicking it off with you. When you are looking at a practice, one of our clients, and you're using all of your brain power to figure out how to move the needle, and there's 100 things that you could tweak and levers to pull and whatever, what are some of the things on the clinical side that you think are super important for practices to pay attention to in your whole world? And I bet you I have better ones. So what's your first one? Go.
First one would be hygiene reappointment rate.
Of course, because you're a hygienist. So why is that important?
Because it is the heartbeat of the practice. It's why patients come. So every dollar out of hygiene equals 2 to 3 in restorative. And if we're not seeing patients out of hygiene, doctor doesn't get to do exam. There's no restorative, and we all go home. So hygiene reappointment rate.
So what you're saying is the hygienists are the most important people in the world to a dental office.
It depends on who's reappointing. It could be the front office. Then they're the most.
Okay. So that's interesting. So it's not really the hygienist, but it's really just about the patients that come into the door for their cleaning and how many of them reappoint. Yes.
I mean, I would suggest the hygienist. They're the ones that typically have a deeper relationship. But yeah, it's just getting them reappointed. People get off track really easy. I mean, I've seen practices where, again, we're talking to a bunch of dentists here, so I can talk about money or maybe hopefully hygienists. If insurance reimbursement is twice a year and somebody gets off track, not only are we not taking the very best care of the patient, but now that twice a year benefit, we're using it less and less. And maybe over a 5-year period, we only use 4 of the cleanings instead of, 10 that we could have used or whatever. I'm exaggerating there, but I've seen it happen again and again. And quite frankly, if you don't get them back on the books, you create more work for somebody having to fill the schedule, track them down. And we've seen it 100 times where that patient becomes no longer an actual active patient because they haven't been in the practice forever. So they're probably going to go elsewhere if we're not keeping them in the practice. So yeah,
you better not steal one of my KPIs.
Yeah,
I feel like you're on the brink of taking one of my KPIs. So don't you?
I'm sticking to it. I'm just saying hygiene reappointment rate is super important. What about you? What about you?
My brain goes to financials really quickly. I mean, maybe it's the ex banker in me, but I think profitability. I think, what are we doing if we're not making money? And one of the things that I have our clients look at is wages in relation to collections. And as you all know, this is actually a very complex KPI because there's production, then gross, and then there's net, and then there's collections. So after all the waterfall, the write-offs, blah, 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 you get to the brass tacks of how much the practice collected. And you compare what you collected to how much the team cost you. And in every single business, wages is most businesses, unless you're tech, I suppose, but most expenses are people, me and you, our team, you name it. And it's no different than any other business typically. And what I try to get my clients, and depending on where you're at, our clients, I shouldn't say my clients, our clients, what I try to get our clients to think about is if collections is down, wages should be down. And when collections are up, it would make sense that wages would be slightly up or maxed out. And if you can manage that right there, if you could manage wages to fluctuate with collections, you'll make more money. But if every single month your wages are 50,000, let's just say, that would be a big practice, like 20,000. Let's say your payroll is 20,000, and you collect 80,000 one month and 50,000 the next month, and then 100,000 and then 30. Man, like as a business owner, that's super stressful because you're making money and then you're losing your ass, and then you're making a little bit and then you lose your ass again. So like, if we could just look ahead in the schedule and just see what we're scheduled to, and if you can see that you're not scheduled for some production, hey, maybe it's a conversation with your team that says, hey guys, let's leave early, or hey, let's close down Friday and move those patients into Thursday or next week. Because if you're willing to do that, then you can lower wages that match your collections. And it's okay if collections go down. It's okay. That's normal. Business is up, business is down. Same in our business, right? Collections are up, collections are down. But if you can control that wage, you make more money. So that's mine, is wages. You're probably going to ask, and I'll just beat you to it, where do I want your wages to be? That's a tough question.
Yeah, I know you didn't ask me where you want my reappointment rate to be.
Oh.
But I was going to ask you because I was curious. Michael, where would you want those wages to be?
So it's a tough answer because regionally it's all over the place. So the way I answer that is, if you're in a very desirable coastal states where I live, Washington, California, I suppose Oregon, all the way over in the East Coast, all up and down the border, people want to be with the coast, and in the coastal areas, the living expenses are higher. So just by that, wages are higher in those areas. So the middle of the country, I would love for you to be at like 25, 20, 28%. And then, more like Seattle and nicer areas on the East Coast, California even, you're going to probably be closer to like 32 to 35, sadly. But those are kind of some ranges, and that's a percentage. But jumping real quick back just so that we can close the loop, what was your hygiene percentage goal, the reappointment rate?
Yeah, I say most offices, I would like to see them minimal 90, but 94 would be get me excited.
Dang, 94%.
But I usually have them shoot for 90% because they're not there at all. So the 90s.
What would you consider average in that world?
In the 80s, probably 80%.
So out of
80s.
10 patients, 8 would be average,
Well,
reappointed.
yes, but we're talking a much bigger volume. So, but yes.
Got you. Okay. So
I
your
mean,
first,
hygiene's low hanging fruit. I mean, most people have benefits. They get their teeth cleaned twice a year. It really shouldn't be, maybe a fee for service patient might have some hesitation, but majority of practices are insurance, and if you've got benefits and it's 100% covered benefit, why in the world would somebody not schedule? So I think 80% is pretty doable, and 90s you're becoming a rock star. So
I got a pop quiz challenge question for you on that topic.
okay.
I'll throw you off a little bit.
Okay.
Is your answer the same for new patients?
No.
You passed. Why?
They don't know you, don't have a relationship with them. Typically some of them might be coming in on some kind of special. Just there's a lot of things. Usually new patient average is probably about 50%, and then actually probably even a little lower than that, 40-50%, and then top is 64%. So
Ew. I didn't realize new patient hygiene reappointment rate was lower than 50% on average. That's nasty. Yuck. Yuck, yuck, yuck. I'm going to get into some marketing KPIs,
wait,
but
I didn't get to do my second one.
no, you are.
My
I'm
turn.
just, you are. I'll touch back though on this topic of reappointing new patients in the hygiene chair.
Mhm.
So what I heard you say, just to jump back and put an end cap, is Paula wants you at 80+%
No,
existing.
90.
Okay. Paula wants 90%, but the average was 80 is what I heard. And of existing patient hygiene reappointment. But for new patients, she wouldn't be surprised if 50% of your new patients reappointed, and she would love at least 60%. Is that what I heard?
Yeah.
Dang. Yours was way more complex than mine. What's your second KPI? Because I got a really good one that's going to smoke yours.
Case acceptance.
Oh, shoot, that's a good one. Okay. I don't know if I can compete with case acceptance. All right, so what's case acceptance? What if you were a dentist, you're a business owner, you're tracking your KPIs. When you say case acceptance, what do you mean? Because a lot of people
I'm usually doing dollar. So I'm looking at, if you present 10,000, how much of that gets on the schedule?
Okay.
And unfortunately, I suppose there's a lot of ways to track it, but it's kind of like, did they schedule that day? I mean, it would be a constant moving target if you went back to say like, okay, then how many scheduled the next time and the next time? So unfortunately, there kind of has to be a way to calculate that. And so it's you present, they schedule. So yes, of course, if it's a phased out treatment, maybe of course they're not going to schedule. There's no way for them to schedule all of it if teeth had to be extracted. But because top is 64%, it takes that into consideration of.
Wait, you said the top is 64%?
Yeah, case acceptance.
Okay. So can you
60,
just say that again?
mm-hmm.
Say how you define it, because I know for a fact there's listeners driving to work right now and they're like, dude, I have 80-90% case acceptance. I'm awesome. And you're saying that the top is 60?
63,
So
63, 64.
I know what you mean. You need to tell the drivers heading to work, say it again. How are you doing that? It's dollars. What do you mean?
It's dollars. I mean, because if you have 10 patients and you're diagnosing $200 fillings, all 10 of them are probably going to accept that treatment. Where if you have crowns and you're presenting all kinds of mixed bags of stuff, it's going to look different. So if you're presenting $100,000 worth of treatment and 63,000 of that gets accepted, that's good. It's not the 100. It's not going to ever be 100%. and it takes into consideration that, some of that treatment needs phased out. That's why top is 63, not 100.
That's it. So that makes me think that, like, I'm not going to say conservative. I'm stupid for using that adjective, but like, if you're a dentist that does really, really conservative dentistry and you're truly bread and butter and you kind of stay away from anything too robust, in theory, you could have a much higher case acceptance. Whereas we have some clients that sell $60,000, $40,000 cases, and their case acceptance much lower because these are big cases. You don't have any statistics on that, probably. You just have kind of everybody thrown in one pot. Exceptional would be 60%, right?
Yeah, but you kind of think about it. The only time I feel like maybe it shouldn't equal, because if I'm selling $40,000 cases and I win some, my dollar is going to be way bigger. So I have to win a lot of crowns to equal 1 all on 4. So really,
but it's a percentage. It's a percentage. It's all percentage. If I do 10 fillings and I get
that's
everyone
what I'm
to
saying. So why shouldn't their case acceptance be equivalent to proportional?
It probably is.
The only reason it's not is because it's harder to sell. It's harder to spend.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That's what
However, if that's my specialty and I'm really good at enrolling and people are picking up my marketing and coming to me because I'm marketing that, we should have exceptional treatment plan coordinator with exceptional follow-up and ways to finance. I'm not saying it's not going to be way more difficult, and I'm not going to say their percentages probably on average are a little lower, but if you really think about it, it should be similar. Now, the one caveat to that is, if I'm doing, I offer a partial denture versus a denture, or versus a extract everything and do an all on 4, I'm going to have maybe a couple different options, routes for the patient to go. That's the exception, because I could have a hybrid, like I could have 2 different big cases in there and saying we could go this way or this way. And until that gets cleared up, the acceptance rate could look lower. So on those higher things, but if we're doing a bunch of ortho cases, overcomplicating a very simple. Yeah, you said mine's complicated. It's because you ask a lot of complicated questions. So if you're about in the 40% range, you're about average.
Okay.
Average. If you're below that, I always say let's take a look. It's a combo of patient experience, follow up, and case presentation. So it's not all on the doc, although it could be. It could be the front failing something. It could be. So you really have to. Whenever we come in, we usually work on the front office system first, because if we've got the input and the treatment plan and all of that looks good, we got the financing, we've got the follow-ups down. Now we can say, did it improve? Nope. Okay, now let's look at what does the rest of the patient experience look like, or that case presentation delivery. So,
okay, so let's make this super dummy style. You present $10,000. You're at, and by the way, most of you that listening probably don't track case presentation dollars. So that's probably KPI 1. Start paying attention to how much you.
We got to have the hygiene reappointment rate to look at the mouth to do restorative.
All right. I heard
unless they're an emergency or a new patient. But
all right, I heard your first KPI. We're on case acceptance. So start tracking how many dollars you diagnosed today, this week, this month. Then start tracking how many of those dollars get accepted. And if $10,000 is diagnosed, your average, if you get $4,000 accepted. You're exceptional if you get 6,000 accepted. If you're less than 4,000 out of the 10,000, start looking at some stuff. That's what I heard.
Okay, wait. Is anyone voting on which KPIs are most important?
We can look. I'm going to go to my next one, and I'm going to give you round 1, but I just can't give you round 2. So
you can't give me case acceptance?
Over wage percentage? No, I can't.
Okay.
Maybe
if we were getting all of our cases accepted, we wouldn't have to worry about wages.
Which is why I'm giving you. I'm going to give you a win for round 2. I thought you'd be humble and give me round 1, but hey, it is what it is. Can I give you my second KPI? Yeah. I'm already yielding.
You're the one asking like 1,000 questions when I bring up one KPI.
Well, look, I just want to make sure our listeners understand what you're going after. My second KPI so my next one is patient retention, and it's similar to your hygiene reappointment rate. It's very similar. It's mashed together, which I thought that's where you were going to go. I'm glad you did it. So we talk about marketing a lot, and everybody's like, I need new patients. I need new patients. I need more volume. I need more at-bats. I need more new patients. And I don't think enough of you are looking at how many of your existing patients are staying with you or leaving out the back door. So new patients, so it's a patient growth or patient retention factor. So we look at how many new patients you got in, how many did you reactivate that were inactive. We look at how many patients went into inactivity, which is leaving, and then how many did you inactivate. So it's like a plus minus, right? So like we got 5 new patients, we reactivated 3, so that's 8 total, but we lost 10 to inactivity, and Nancy Joe moved away to a different state and we inactivated her. So it's like a plus minus. And I just feel like, and I got an email today by a doctor, you're on it, and he's like, new patients or life, or new patients will, like, it's all about the new patients. We need more growth. And the reality is it's not all about new patients. I'll quote Heartland. I read an article about Heartland. You've probably heard me say this statistic that it takes 22 new patients to break even or level out a practice. 22. So if you're not getting 22 on average, 22 new patients, you're dying. So it takes 22 to level out. That's because 22 are leaving out the back door or we're inactivating them. So if you can really tighten up the back end and then focus on new patients, your active patient count will grow. And I just feel like we need to have more conversations about not just new patients, but the patients that we're not paying attention to that you already have in the practice. So that's my second KPI. 19% growth month over month is exceptional. 10% is average. But that's the industry telling us that. I actually have observed that the average is 0% growth, just flat. Our dental intelligence, who we use as some of our data authority, say that 10% growth in active patients month over month is average. So I think it's somewhere between 0% and 10%. Exceptional is 18%. Start paying attention to that, guys. Okay, let's vote. I think mine's pretty important, but I'll give you treatment acceptance as the win on the second round.
Does that mean I have to give you the first one? Is that what you're saying? I wouldn't be bringing it up. Okay, how many more do I get? That's the question.
You get one more. So we're going to go to the third round. This is the tiebreaker, so I can't believe you're asking that. Yeah, this is a battle of best of three. I mean,
can I combo too? Because they kind of go hand in hand.
Are you really trying to win the third round is what you're trying to do? Sure, Paula, break the rules. What's your third KPI?
Would be production / collection. So I'm saying it kind of goes, they are two different KPIs.
What do you mean?
So,
Okay, so what do you mean?
So doctors, everybody always, and I get it, people are saying, well, production doesn't mean anything, net production. So we'll say, let's schedule the goal. What are your production? And they'll say, well, what about collections? But I can't schedule to collection. Collection is done on the back end. And it's also sometimes insurance driven. And you hope at the end of the month, or, it'll go up and down, and some months will be even and some will be up and some will be down when it comes to collections, because it really depends on when did that check hit, the account. You're waiting on insurance. But if we're really, really tight in collections, it shouldn't take any more if it's an EFT, electronic deposit, to if it's check, no more than 6. So we're talking about, we average out about 30 days. We should be, doing that. And then you're always chasing last month. So you would hope that those collections would come in. So I always focus on net production because it's really the only stable thing that we can control. And then the collections, if we're all doing our job, should ultimately equal that over time. So I'm focusing on net production, scheduling to goal. We would want, and it depends on the size of the practice and the patient flow and a lot of things. But I would say my doctors average somewhere between 3,500 and 5,000 is their goal. It just depends if they do clear aligners. I mean, I have doctors that go up to 13,000 a day. It's all over the place. But I think that the important thing is you've got to look at quite a bit of metrics to get there. And then once you know what you want for the year, you waterfall that backward by the day. But that's an important KPI, that you're coming in every day and you're looking at that production and saying, did we hit it? Because usually if we hit it and we're doing our job on collections, again, we're going to be hitting that. But you can't, if you're looking at collections, it'd be maybe 2,000. So anyways, I feel like production is a huge driver.
Production per day.
Is a huge KPI that you should be looking at. The whole team should be looking at every single day.
Yeah, I don't think anybody can compete against production per day. So I no matter what I say, you win round 3. And I think you, in my defense, my first KPI was about collections compared to wages. So it's kind of related, but
yours is collection, mine's production.
I feel like it's such a dirty move choosing production per day, but okay, fair enough.
There were no rules, nor a prep, so I had to go with it.
We needed a referee. That should have been on the exclusion list, but since you did that, all right, then I guess I'll go to the last one, and that is it's new patient acquisition, cost per new patient, and that's a pretty loaded KPI, because most of the time when I look at doctors spend for what they're spending in the marketing, like we got an email right now, I just saw it pop in, and she's spending $4,000 a month in marketing spend, and then I can see how many new patients she's getting. So I can easily do 4,000 divided by how many new patients and get a cost per new patient. And my number is somewhere south of $300 per new patient. The best ones are less than 100. So I guess what I'm saying is, yeah, I mean, $100 per new patient is incredible.
But a review is free.
A review is free. That's right. That's right.
And
So
it's got amazing buying power in today's world.
yeah, I mean, that's why reviews are so important, because that's free marketing. But to that point, if you're doing external marketing, you guys, you have to track where your new patients are coming from. That's probably the number one thing that we really stress in any office, is like, if you're not tracking how these patients hit your books, like, what are you doing? Because what happens is you end up spending a lot of money, maybe like this doc who's spending $4,000, and a lot of it's just going to stupid activity. And the strategy needs to be figure out what works, figure out what doesn't, cut what doesn't, and double down on what does, and track it. And I'll leave you with this. And I
But I
already
have
gave
a
the
comment to make before you leave.
well. There's a lot of comments to make on this topic, but thank you for trying to steal my KPI.
You
If
made lots of comments on my KPIs.
the thing about it is like, if your referral sources are vague, so like, for example, a new patient goes online, signs up, how did you hear about us? And they click Google. That's very vague, Google. And you could have driven by the office and Googled. I don't know. Was it the sign that made the call? Your friend could have told you, oh, Lakeview Dental Office. And then you Google that. Well, it was really your friend who referred, but I Googled it. It could have been an actual advertisement that you paid for. That's probably what you mean when you say Google. It could have been the postcard we mailed you, and then that patient Googled you, and all the patient said was Google. So you have no idea what Google means. And that's a perfect example of being too vague. So drill down on where you're getting these patients, and then truly figure out the ROI, return on investment, of what marketing your marketing is doing. So yeah, what did you want to add to that, Paula?
Well, I just wanted to add, circling back around to case acceptance is
Just mentioned about her KPI.
when you're doing this marketing and you're putting in the referral source, it's also measuring, marketing is a lead that's brought in. How your team and you handle it is up to you. So once you get the rear in the chair, you may only get 5 patients out of that marketing strategy, but if those 5 patients equal $50,000, you've got that measurement. And then did you close those cases? Are you good at enrolling? So there's so many things that go into marketing. We'll have doctors all the time say, well, that didn't work. It's like, well, how many patients did you get? Well, 5. But what's the dollar amount you got out of that? And I think
I'll call you out, because even when you owned, we tried a mail campaign, and you know where I'm going with this story. You did not want to do the mail. It was very expensive. And I'm like, you got to try it. We drop a ton of mail. Paula just owned a practice. She, just like any buyer, was being very conservative with her spend, trying to maximize profit. You did all the things everybody does. It's not wrong, but marketing
is my money.
It was your money now. Yeah, it's your money. So we do the mailer, and it by the numbers. And by the way, that was my KPI, $300 or less per patient. But you'll notice the cost per patient is different than production per patient on those. And so that's what you said, Paula. And so, like, let's say we do a mail campaign.
So I learned a lesson. And now
you did.
Now it's part of my spiel.
That's right. Let me close the loop though. You only got like maybe 5 patients on that mail campaign. And you're like, that totally sucked. That was like, it cost me whatever, call it $800 per patient. That was the cost of each patient. You paid $1,000, you got whatever, right? You paid $5,000, you got 5 patients. That'd be $1,000 per patient. Not very good. But one of those patients was like a $10,000 case. So absolutely it works. So that's what you're saying, Paula, is you got to look at it 2 ways. And I agree. You stole my KPI. So it's cost per patient.
No, you were wrapping it up. You said I'm wrapping up. I actually enhanced your KPI. You could have won. You might have won that round now. Because I
are you saying that I win the third round?
No, I'm out of the audience.
Yes, I won the set.
I didn't say that. I said I enhanced. You might have.
You did enhance. So it's cost per patient and production per patient, new patient. I think that's great.
Acceptance.
Acceptance. Okay, Paula. All about your KPI in the second round. All right, I hear you. Well, I concede. I'm not going to give you the third round. Let's put this out on social and have everybody vote. I think mine are great. We'll leave it to the third round for people.
I think mine are great. Vote for me below.
I love it. All right. Well, that's the episode for today. We busted it out in 36 minutes. I'm shocked that it took that long. We probably could have debated another hour. Again, folks,
for KPIs to throw out there, I had to suppress it.
All right. Well, thanks so much for your time, guys. Again, reminder: please like, subscribe, vote, write Google reviews.
No, they do need to vote.
They do need to vote. That's right. Yeah, stay tuned. We'll be putting out some more stuff later this month. Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye.
See you, Paula. I win. Definitely win. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Let us know how you like the show. Rate us on Apple and Spotify. Subscribe and follow for more.